Welcome back to the Nuanced Friends podcast. Today, I have my friend, longtime coworker, and a professional photographer himself, Vance Angel.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Dude, I am so excited to talk to you today because you are honestly one of the most interesting persons I've ever come across who thinks very similar to me, and big ideas to small ideas to just crazy alternative ideas that we want to go do and discover. So, I mean, it's good. It's awesome.
Well, I'm excited about this whole thing, dude. This is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, dude. It's something I want to do for a while now. Finally put together. So got all the gear and it's fun.
Now you're rolling.
Oh yeah, we're rolling. So Vance, you have traveled extensively here in the past. Really, I mean, you've traveled before, but a lot here in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, almost 2 years.
Yeah. So where did you start?
Well, I guess it all kind of started back at Resilient, in the Tri-Cities of Washington. I was thinking about doing this for a long time. I was like, hey, I found this website online called coolworks.com. It's all these seasonal job opportunities with housing and all that stuff. And I looked at it several times and I was like, I want to try this. I want to go somewhere and live there seasonally, and then try to hop to another seasonal one and just kind of travel around. And I always thought, it'd be a cool thing, but I never really, really seriously thought about it until I was working at Resilient for a little while and kind of got tired of, living the same thing over and over again.
You got tired of living the day-to-day in the good old Tri-Cities of boring Washington.
Yeah. And really, what sent me over the edge was exactly that. I just asked a friend one day, I was like, hey, dude, what's going on? Came through the drive-thru, and he's like, oh, same old, same old. And I was like, oh, crap. That was like a bomb that went off inside of me.
Yeah, I think that can be very boring to be. I think that's what hurts a lot of people is they get very bored and they don't do nothing about it. Especially in the Tri-Cities, it's a very status quo type of city for the most part. However, though, I remember these conversations we had when you were thinking about applying. Right before you applied, you're like, dude, should I do this? I'm like, what's the worst that happened? You don't get it?
But how many times, though, before that I had thought about, I had thought about this when I still worked at Hapo before Roasters.
Dude, that's a long time ago.
That's a long time, yeah.
Because we worked at Roasters, for a year together?
Yeah,
plus?
almost a year together.
Yeah.
And then we went Resilient.
Yeah.
And that was almost a year. And then finally, that's when I left. So the amount of time that I had thought, considered the idea of, oh, maybe I should do something like this before I finally did it. It's crazy. And then on top of that, you follow people on Instagram, for instance, and you see all these people doing the stuff that you want to do, like kayaking and sea kayaking and skydiving and paragliding and all this stuff, mountain biking. And you're hiking to the top of these huge mountains and everything. And you're like, man, I want to do stuff like that someday.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get that feeling. I mean, I've been stuck in that status quo, but I'm ready to break out of it. I've been doing nothing for the past 8 months and just working, going home, doing nothing. So I mean, I'm getting some gear together to start going camping more often. So I mean, I get it. I want to go travel and go do things, and it's either you commit or you don't. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
Until later in your life when you're a little bit older and you have maybe a family by that point, and then it's not as easy just to get up and go do things.
Right. And I think that was another added reason why I was finally I'm gonna try to do, I'm gonna put the first step in, if you will, is because people started kind of backing me. You were one of those people who backed me up, but other people started backing me up and saying, yo, dude, you're young, you don't have kids, you don't have a wife, you don't even have a girlfriend here. Why are you not at least gonna apply, or at least gonna see what happens? And so so I sent in my first application. That was I want to say August of 2018?
I think that was I think was it? Yeah, it was 2018 cuz no, it was earlier.
Really?
It was 2017 almost.
Okay.
No, wait, that's when I graduated, so I worked there for a year.
So it was August of 2018?
I think maybe you might be right.
Because then I would have left spring of 2019.
Okay.
Been gone all of the rest of 2019. And then 2020 I came back in the
So I guess you're right. I mean, I guess time's just moved really fast, I guess, so I thought it was a little bit farther back than it really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was about a year and a half that I was gone, I think, altogether.
Yeah, so I guess, you did apply August because then you left that early spring. Yeah. To go. Yeah, where were you headed?
So I was headed to Alaska, to Seward, Alaska specifically. I applied for a company called Kenai Fjords Tours, which a fjord is basically just like a valley carved out by a glacier and then filled in with water.
Okay.
So it was like this tour company that was parked inside of a bay that was a big huge fjord, a big huge glacier carved bay, and they would take these tours out to go watch whales and like see different types of birds, like seabirds and pelagic seabirds and stuff, and also just really beautiful parts of Alaska on the coast. But I was super surprised when I got there and found that there's snow, but it's not like what you see on TV. You know, it's not
those like 10 feet of snow on the pile, and people are walking in like snow tunnels, like you would think.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like that further up north, but for the most part, like where most people live, it's actually a lot like Washington. You know, like you get snow for sure.
Yeah.
When I first got there, there was plenty of it, but it wasn't like what I imagined.
Okay.
And when it started to melt away, like all of a sudden this beautiful place was revealed, this almost like magical world around me. And before it fully melted, we were looking up at this mountain called Marathon Mountain. There's like this race that happens there every year. It's an international race. It's called the Marathon Mountain Race.
Okay.
And a little tiny tidbit of like history behind that race. A couple guys were just sitting at a bar, and both of those guys would go up to the top of the mountain every day to look out and see if they could see the mail boat coming in and like be able to spot it or whatever. Yeah, that
sounds like some drunk activity if I've ever heard it.
That was
sober.
That was their job.
That was just their job.
Yeah, they would have to go up every day. But
dang,
they
that's
were sitting
crazy.
in this bar, and they made this bet. This is the drunk activity.
Okay.
They made this bet. One of them looked at the other and said, "Okay, I bet you I could run to the top of that mountain and come right back down here before you can finish that beer." And he was like, "Are you kidding me? There's no way you could do that." And he was like, "Watch me." So like he took off and he ran. And as the guy's like taking the last sip, this guy runs in the door and he's like, "What the heck?" He's like, "I did it," like all gasping out of air, like completely
for sure.
tired. So that was like the beginning of what ended up turning into the Marathon Mountain Race, which now people run all the way to the top. Now I think like 6,000 feet to the top, right?
Jesus.
And you're running from sea level, so you're going all 6,000 feet. And then you're coming back down, and like I think the record's like 38 minutes or something like that.
Damn.
Don't quote me on that because I don't know if that's like perfectly accurate, but it's between like 35 and 45 minutes.
That's
like,
still an insane amount of time to go 6,000 feet.
Oh yeah, all the way up to the top and all the way back down.
How big was this guy's beer?
it was like a mug. So
it was a decent size, like a pint.
2 beers, yeah, basically.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but you think about like.
I would take my time too if I was that guy. Like, there's no way.
I'm gonna give him a chance. But at the same time, I'm gonna enjoy my beer. Like,
you're just gonna sit there and enjoy it. And this guy's crazy.
Oh man,
that's a weird job to have. Back like how long ago was that? Do you know?
That was. I'm not totally sure on that. So I actually couldn't tell you how long ago.
I'm gonna have to look that up afterwards and see how long ago that was because that's weird. That's a weird job.
It was probably a while ago because I know.
I mean, if they're looking for the mail, it had been quite a while ago.
Yeah. It was a mail ship that would come in to deliver mail, and they had been there since 1850 something. After the U.S. had like purchased Alaska from Russia.
So I'd assume like
it was
late 1800s probably.
Yeah. Could have been somewhere around
early
there.
19s.
There's 2 brothers that basically. So there was a family that lived there. It was just a family. They kind of like settled there, or whatever, and had their little house. And then these 2 brothers came in and saw a potential to make some money, and they were like, "We're gonna build a railroad." Hence why the Alaska Railroad started, and that actually led to the town, which is the biggest city in Alaska now, which is Anchorage. That was actually a tent town for the railroad. later in the
Interesting.
Yeah, and the railroad bankrupt those two brothers and their company. Then they came back like with another thing. It bankrupted them again, and then like something else happened. The U.S. took over, and there was another. I think there was a third bankruptcy that happened
over this one rail line.
Over this one railroad, yeah. And then World War II happened, and then after that, the U.S. spent several $1 million to like, rebuild it or repair it or whatever after the war. And now it's just a tourist attraction. Like you just ride the train for the tourist thing. It's not really like any use like you'd want a train to be used.
Yeah.
Or like they thought it was going to be used to like haul gold in and out of the country or in and out of the Alaska.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. So what were you doing over there? What was this job position that you took?
Yeah, so I took this job position as a barista, working for Kenai Fjords Tours, like I said. And I was probably there for like 3 weeks before we started running tours. And I went on my first tour, and I remember thinking, like, oh, I'm not going to, like, what are the chances I'm going to see a whale out there? You know what I mean? Like, especially being, like, raised and growing up in a world where you don't really see that kind of stuff every day.
No.
So we go out on this boat, right, for the first time, and we spot like, I don't know, there was 2 humpbacks, there was a fin whale, there was some gray whales, and orcas.
I've been so sick.
Yeah, like
how big were these humpbacks though? Was that like the craziest thing you've seen?
Dude, they were so big, and I only got to see a lazy one that time. So like it was sleeping, so it was swimming in circles. And that was kind of funny. They were talking about how they like shut one side of the brain off, and so they end up going in circles or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it works, but it was pretty funny to see them just like lobbing around like a big fat bobber in the water. But anyway, with that though, like I saw all this beautiful stuff, like the most beautiful thing I ever saw. I felt like you've played Skyrim, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I literally felt like I was in Skyrim. And I kept looking around like, where in the world is the dragon at, dude? I was like, something's missing here. Like, you know what I mean?
Always. I mean, you always have to try to reference it to something that you've seen before. And Skyrim's a great, like, beautiful game, but I can imagine. Like, yeah, I've never been a whale watcher or anything, so just the size and it's really hard to imagine until you see it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And when you see it up close, too, like you see him in the distance a little bit, like a huge whale. But my first time when it came right up next to the boat. And I looked over the edge of the boat and I saw the bubbles bubbling up and you're like, what is that? And then all of a sudden you see this giant surface under the boat. And you're like, whoa. That's not the ground, dude. Like, I thought that was the ground at first. Like, it's just so big. Like, you just see this giant flat surface, and then you realize, no, that's a whale coming up there, right there. Uh-oh. And then it comes up, and then, like, the whole boat kind of, like, tilts to the left and then moves aside because all the water is just kind of, like, rushing over the top of this whale. And then it blows, and you just hear this, and, the captain of the boat was always talking about how they blow like 200 miles an hour, like the air that comes out of their
really
port. Yeah, it's like 200 miles per hour. And so like you see this giant just spout shooting up in the air as they take a deep breath, and you hear and you can almost feel their lungs inflating with all that air really quick before they go back under the water, and you're like, holy crap.
That's impeccable. Like, those beasts are absolutely insane.
Yeah, and it's just an extended period of time that it happens.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, like that experience alone, that very first like outing was the introduction to what would turn into my Alaska experience, right? Like that was like you thought you might see a whale, and you just saw a whole lot of whales, not to mention like eagles. I saw eagles by the dozens. On that one trip, and that's a 5-hour trip, mind you.
Okay.
So over the course of that entire time that I was up there, I ended up being able to go out on basically every single day off that I had. I was out on a boat every single time, and I was able to go on 9-hour trips, which
that's insane.
Is what I did every time. Yeah. So needless to say, that's what actually, because we were going to talk about photography at some point.
No, you're good. No one.
Oh.
Yeah, turn your mic around. There you go.
Turn around this way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was talking the whole time
It's
in
fine.
the wrong side of it. Anyway.
Yeah. No, so, yeah. So you took 9-hour trips and inspired all your photography that's coming up next? Because I remember you slightly talking about it right before you left, how you wanted to get a camera because you thought you might see some cool stuff and then all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So I had actually gotten, you might have to.
Yeah, no, we're good. Keep talking.
Okay. You might have actually gotten, or I told you that I had gotten a GoPro.
Yeah.
And I thought a GoPro was going to be perfect. Like, I was looking, I wanted to start a vlog. That was the big thing. Like, I wanted to start a vlog. I wanted to vlog all the time, create these awesome videos. I had watched a bunch of YouTube videos like, hey, this is how you make B-roll and this is how you tell stories and all this stuff. So I thought I had a good idea of what I was going to do. So I got myself that guy. I got myself a little gimbal for it. Tried to go
all the good stuff you need to start a vlog, right?
And so I went out on my first vlog trip, if you will, with a friend that I'd met up there his parents are actually strong influencers. Like, that's all they do.
Really?
Yeah, they're focused around RVs. So his mom had a vlog, or not a vlog, a blog.
Okay.
Before everything, they took off on their big adventure. And then she sold that thing for, I don't know, some few $1 million or something like that. And then decided she was going to start from scratch and started completely from scratch on a brand new blog. And they bought themselves an RV, and then they just started driving across the country and blogging about, different parks and that kind of stuff, but mostly about the RV and talking about their experience with the RV, talking about their experience while traveling with the RV and living in the RV and, with a family and kids and all that different stuff going on and making it financially work on a budget kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing took off and went crazy and got even more valuable than the last one, to the point where they're making $50K a year on just blogging. That's all they do.
That's pretty insane. Think about it, just blogging, because that's all. I mean, I don't know, just making $50K just on the internet alone is absolutely.
It's mind boggling.
Yeah,
it's mind boggling. But they were very committed to it.
Was that do you know what years those were at? Because I feel if it got pretty big, even nowadays, you don't need to be huge, from my understanding, to really make more than $50K on the internet. So there's probably. I would have to, if I had to guess based on those numbers, probably early 2012, 2011,
something like that they had done it, because now they're living in Texas, and that's kind of why he decided he wanted to go on his Alaskan adventure, which is how we crossed paths, because he decided to do it because he loved traveling, and when his parents decided they're going to just stay in Texas and blog about RVs in Texas, and they're going to call their adventure good, he was like, I'm thirsty for more, dude. And he had a camera, and he had learned how to use the camera. I mean, I'll have to show you his Instagram later, because he's got some of the coolest photos I've ever seen all over the place. Just these great hiking photos and nature and wildlife photography and all that stuff. So he kind of was another inspiration, if you will, on that front. But anyway, I go on this trip with him, getting back to what we were talking about before. Go on this trip with him to go hike Marathon Mountain, which is what I was talking about earlier. We were waiting for this mountain to be the snow to melt enough so we could go up there. And anyway, we start walking, we start going about it. I've got my camera, my little gimbal and my GoPro, and I'm filming everything, and I'm doing all this different stuff. And I'm thinking, man, this is going to be such an awesome video. I'm gonna, yada, yada, yada. We go through this entire thing, and I'm telling you, this was one of the coolest trips ever, right? We're going along, and the snow starts hitting. You go through, at the beginning, you go through these tall trees, and you're in the tundra, down in there. And you go through all this stuff, and then finally you break over the tree level, and then all of a sudden the trees are gone, and now all of a sudden the snow patches start showing up, but there's streams running through and all of that. And that's where I started oh my God, this place is beautiful. Wait till the snow melts. It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
And we keep going, and eventually we get to the point where we're knee deep in snow at this point. So we're kind of going, what are we going to keep going? should we stop and turn around? And my friend, the one that I'm telling you about, he's like, no, we're not going to stop. I want to go a little further. I want to check it out. And the other guy that was with us, he was like, oh, heck no, I'm done. I'm out. Like he had been to the top of the mountain before. So he was like, I'm good. I'm out of here. So he takes off. And now you got two guys who neither one of them have ever been up there. We don't even know where we're going at this point. There's no trail because nobody's been, what do we see here?
Deep snow.
Yeah. All we see here now is like ski tracks from people who took a helicopter lift up to the top of it and then skied down it.
That's sick.
Yeah. So that's all we see. And then an occasional skier coming down.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we hike, we keep going. And then I just kind of sit there. I'm like, I'm really not feeling I want to get stuck up here. I start realizing that I'm seeing little bits of grass poking through, and I pulled on one and realized it was the top of a tree. And now I'm like, oh crap! Like, okay. We later found out towards when the snow all melted, we found out that the trees that I was pulling the tops of were about 18 feet tall. So we were about 18 feet deep in snow at this point. We didn't realize it, but we could easily step in the wrong spot and fall right through.
Oh my!
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That could have been crazy.
I couldn't even imagine pulling the top of the tree and thinking it's just like this. Because when you tell me that, I was like, oh, it's just a small little, little starter tree, like I don't know, like 6 feet maybe. And so maybe you're coming back to the snow, and you go back and it's 18 feet. No.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, and you realize how dangerous that actually was.
You realize actually how deep you are.
So it was kind of funny too, though the rest of this part. So like we got up to that point, right? And he walks over the hill. And I don't hear him for a little while. It's probably been about 10 minutes. And I'm like, yo, Josiah. And I hear nothing. I'm like, hey. And then I hear, dude, get up here. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, fine. I'm going to go. So I walk up there. I kind of follow where he went, like his little treading tracks and stuff. Find these little rocks and we kind of walk up these rocks. I get up to where he's at and he's like, just, we need to keep going. I was like, all right. So I kept following along. I'm watching where I'm stepping exactly where he stepped because I don't want to get off course. And it's also easier when you're knees deep and you sink every time to just step where it's already compacted a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you're sitting there following his tracks, and all of a sudden he just stops and I bump into him. I'm like, what the heck? He's like, dude. I was like, what? He's like, look up. I raise my head, and all I see in front of me is this panoramic of huge, massive, snow-capped mountains. And I'm standing there, and I look back, and huge mountains all behind me and everything. And I realize I'm standing in this spot. It's just quiet. You just hear that.
Yeah, I think, would you describe it like sublime, as in the traditional sense of sublime, where it's a nature thing, where you're between, it's like this fear and excitement.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
And this realization of this is the stuff that I saw in the pictures.
Okay, yeah.
On Instagram. This is the stuff that I saw in movies of these mountaineers and stuff, and I'm standing here. This isn't me watching a film I'm standing here, and I didn't take a helicopter. I didn't cheat. I went through all the work. It took us about 3.5 hours. So it's not like this huge mountain that you're going up.
Yeah.
But it's this idea of you went through these challenges and you went through all that work and everything. And this was me first arriving. And I think, man, I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting this all on video. Just this pan shot.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And anyway, we go through all of that stuff. I have this amazing experience. And I get back and I start editing the video and I'm like, this is all crap.
It doesn't compare to what you saw?
No, it
That's
doesn't
hard.
compare. It doesn't compare to what I saw. B, it doesn't compare to what I imagined or what I had in mind. And I start realizing there's all this stuff with camera technology, everything from what your aperture setting is or what your shutter speed setting is, or what your focal length is too is a huge one. What your focal length is going to tell a lot about scale. It's going to tell a lot about your environment. It's going to tell a lot about it's going to draw your eyes in different places so that what your viewer is going to see or feel is based on what you did, what your settings were and what lens you used and all of those different things. And I didn't know that. So when I get back, I start doing all this research. I'm like, how come my video footage doesn't look like his video footage, right?
Yeah.
because that's what I wanted to understand. So I start realizing, like I said, that there's all these other things involved, and I'm like, God, I can't do it with this little camera.
No, not with the GoPro.
Yeah, I can't do it. I just can't create what I envision.
I think GoPros, GoPros are not good for, just in my opinion, like trying to capture something immense and huge. In the sense, I think they're good for capturing a feeling of, I mean, if you're just talking straight into it, very close, it's not bad, in my opinion, but there's better options.
Well, it'll create, so if you talk into a GoPro, the thing with a GoPro is, it's a wide angle, right? So it's just like having a regular camera and putting a wide angle lens on it. What you're going to do is you're going to cause this funny distortion. You're going to make people's heads look skinnier.
Yeah.
And then you're also going to make things potentially, depending on how you angle the camera and stuff, you can make things look big or you can make things look smaller.
Yeah.
You know, they tend to make things look smaller because they're farther away.
Yeah. I guess I was going to go to the point like where it's better for like that point of view aspect where you're like riding along someone.
Yeah.
I think they're amazing for that.
Right.
Because they give you kind of a sense of like what they're doing and you can see the blur lines come across and they're very small, mountable. But I feel like when you're capturing something of that size,
you have to think about what you're capturing and what you want people to see and what you don't want people to see and how you want people to feel. And a lot of it comes from like, how did I feel and what do I want to share with the people around me, right? Because I don't want to share everything here because not everything here is the impressive thing. Yeah. Right? The impressive thing, maybe getting a shot of like my feet getting shoved into this snow. Every step is like knee deep, so you get an idea of how deep the snow is. And, you know, audio is a huge thing that I didn't understand back then either, like hearing the cruckling of snow, or when you get up to that moment and you're looking out at this beautiful landscape and all you hear is like that silence of you're the only ones up here because nobody else has the balls to do that right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you're the only ones up there, you're not wrong. Yeah, so, like, besides, like, just trying to capture all that, like, what was, like, I guess after this experience, you were moving on as things melted, like, what else were you doing up in Canada, and how long were you staying up there before you moved on? Alaska, my bad. I always think of do it all the time. Right. Yeah, how long were you up there? What else, what was the change? I guess, like, being knee-deep, like, realizing you're sitting on top of these 18-foot trees on the snow. What were was the change just like crazy to see from when you got there?
So it was insane. It was insane. So when I got there, first of all, let's start with the daylight, right? Yeah. You have normal days. And down here you have like really short days, right? Up there you have normal days, normal length days. But because you're going from almost all darkness to like pretty much pure light all the time, 24-hour daylight, the midnight sun, as they like to call it. Yeah. You're seeing a very quick and drastic shift because it's got to shift from you're gaining all those hours really quick. So out of nowhere, you go from normal days to suddenly the sun doesn't set. It just goes in circles over your head all the time. Yeah. And one of the cool things about that, though, is imagine like a sunset or a sunrise that never ends.
Oh, that'd be sick.
The sun's always on the horizon
all
somewhere.
That golden light.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like all the time. Yeah. So as a photographer learning, it was really cool because it was like I have golden hour all day. Whenever I want. I can go to work and I work 9 to 5, and then I can go take a hike after work, and the sun's going to be out the entire time. I would get up there, and it's like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm looking around. It looks like 12 o'clock noon. Like, but it's like 1:30 in the morning, right? And then I finally get back down, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, no, I got to get to work soon. I'm not going to sleep any. Jeez. You know what I mean? So that would happen all the time. But I went up Marathon Mountain almost every day after work. Okay. Almost every day after work. And I kid you not, every single day it was different. Every single day. From the very beginning of snow melting and like you're starting to see more of the trail, you're starting to see these trees that weren't there before because they were all covered in snow. So like these trees are there all of a sudden. These bushes are there. I ran into a black bear for the first time.
Dude, I was on the phone with you the day after that happened.
Yeah.
And you were just like, ah.
Yeah. I walked around the corner and I'm like, what is that? It's like sitting up against a tree on its butt. And it like turned its head like to the side and it was like, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, ugh.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I was like, imagine being like,
I was like, you're cute. And I'm going this way.
Yeah, this is your area, not mine.
Yeah, exactly. So that was that. And I had plenty of other cool animal experiences too. Dealt with porcupines, and which are a mess to deal with, and also trash pandas. Plenty of those little guys. Raccoons.
I love that name for raccoons.
Yeah, so I had to deal with all that stuff. But yeah, no, it changed all over the place. New animals coming out all the time. The eagles were always out and about. You'd see eagles flying around everywhere. And then you started finding streams because a lot of the streams were actually running under the snow.
Yeah.
So those were like the snow started to melt, and then you saw the dips, and then eventually started seeing the streams. And then when the snow was all gone, then you saw like these grassy hills and big rocks rising out of them, and the streams running through these in different ways. In the sun, the way that the water, I was told it's something to do with the nutrients in the water. But the water reflects the sun in this way that just looks so like crystal. It's like the water's made of diamond. It's so beautiful.
Dude, that's crazy. I'm gonna have to go up there one day.
Yeah. So, you see all this stuff happen. Then the flowers start blooming, and you have what's called fireweed. And the fireweed goes through different phases. It starts out and it's just grass. It's just green.
Yeah.
And then it starts blooming purples. And then you got bees everywhere, like harmless bees. They don't really care about
just
you.
Just the old honeybees.
Yeah, basically honeybees and little bumblebees and stuff. And they just like all over the place. And I mean, fields of these like blue and then eventually purple. And then towards the end of the summer, you start getting reds. And that's where the whole hills look like they're all on fire. And
really?
That's why it's called fireweed. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
It literally looks like fire. It's like reds and yellows and all this orange and all this different stuff. And it's just huge fields. I mean, like you're talking, it looks small when it's on the mountain, but then when you get up there, you're just looking as far as the eye could see is just all fields of these flowers.
Dang.
It's insane.
Man, I couldn't even imagine. Like that's a weird plant.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of like how that changed up a lot. As far as things that I got to do while I was up there, I mean, over the course of that entire summer, I had a summer fling. With somebody. A very, very, a very cool experience there. We both knew that we were going to be going separate ways at the end of the summer.
Oh yeah.
But we were able to, share these experiences. We had somebody to share those experiences with, in a very personal, a very, very special way. So that was a cool experience in and of itself. I was very heartbroken at the end of it when, we had to take our separate, and that was a whole, like, that felt like a movie in and of its own. Like, it was like the whole Titanic happened.
The whole Titanic. Then the scene, I'll never let go.
Yeah.
And then you eventually have to let go.
Yeah.
Even though there's room on the board. I'll digress on that.
Yeah.
I'm also curious, besides just like the change of scenery and all that, like, what do you think the biggest change was, within like culturally to like, how the people were, or just seeing like hundreds and hundreds of new tourists all the time, or your coworkers? Like, was the atmosphere just different because you had all these people who obviously we want to work somewhere crazy? Like,
oh yeah.
That like, oh man, I just want to go here, do all these experiences. You just have it was a lot of like-minded individuals, or was it?
Oh yeah. So,
but very different like backgrounds and.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was. So I told you that we had housing, right?
Yeah.
So like we had housing. It was part of the company, and as a result of that, like most of those people that were there that were living in the same housing as you, were people who came from all over the place, all like different place. Not only just in the U.S. either. Like people who were coming from Bulgaria and like different places outside of the country as well, and working either on Fox Island, which was an island also part of the company, like an exclusive island that they had, or working as part of Kenai Fjords too, or somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, so somewhere with the same like company in the same area and all that.
Right. Okay. But almost all of them, were seasonal workers. Like they went to other places and they kind of like hopped around. Like in the off season of one, they went to another. In the off season of that, they went to another. In the off season of that, they went to another. So they were seasonal lifers. They were nomadic people.
Yeah, just going from one place to another wherever they could find work.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And part of what was really cool about that was you're surrounded by almost nothing but purely open-minded individuals who are just fascinated with the world around them and just love being there, love being where they are, love going where they're going to go next. We'd often sit there around camp. Like we had campfires every night, dude. And I'm talking like not like little campfires of like 4 or 5 people. I'm talking like 20 people that would all show up to this camp. And it wasn't a campfire like in your backyard. It was like, hey, we're going to hike out into the boonies over here by this creek. I think if I remember correctly, it might have been called Bear Creek. I'm not totally positive on that. That might be a different creek. But we'd go out to this creek and we had this spot and you had to like hike through some bushes and like, I mean, people would get drunk out there and they couldn't get like back on their own because it was such a scramble. And it was actually really funny to watch. It was really funny. Like,
I can see it.
Yeah. In fact, one of my friends was so bad that day that he was having a hard time getting up at the fire. And so 3 of us had to like escort him, and it was a mission, dude. I'll tell you what, it was a crazy mission because we had to go over these big, huge rocks.
Yeah.
And there was water, and he started falling in the water. And, he was getting all wet, and then he fell over. There's this stuff called, what's it called? Now I'm going to forget what it's called. There's like this type of weed. Oh, Devil's Club. That's what it's called.
Devil's Club?
Devil's Club, yeah.
Okay. What is this?
It's like a plant. It looks a lot like cow's parsnip, which is a plant that you never want to mess with. It'll make you go blind. I don't know if it's like a temporary or like a permanent blind. Yeah. You don't want to mess with that stuff. If you get like the cream from inside the plant, you know, like you break a plant open.
Yeah.
If you get that stuff on you, it's bad news. And especially if you get it like in your eyes or if you touch your tongue with it or like in your mouth or whatever.
Over.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff that comes from it. Anyway, it also I think it has some medicinal quality to it too, but you have to know what you're doing.
Obviously, yeah.
But anyway, this Devil's Club looks a lot like that, but it's got these spikes, like really nasty spikes. Like you think about thorns on a thorn bush, like a rose bush. Like, think about them, like, a lot smaller, but a lot longer. And think about, like, for every one of those, think about, like, 20 or 40 of them.
Jesus.
Yeah, so, like, it's just covered in, like, these spikes everywhere.
That's
and
terrifying.
He's, like, falling over into the rocks, and then he falls over into a Devil's Club, and then he's like, oh, my God. Like, oh, no. And then, you're just trying to... You're trying to guide him back. So that was a funny experience. But yeah, as far as like culturally, it's so much more like people don't really, they talk about, some of the things that we talk about here. But it was a lot less often that I ever heard anything political ever come up. Like nobody really talked about that. Nobody really talked about sports very much. Yeah. Like there was a little bit, I think they watched they watch like NFL and stuff every once in a while. I was gonna say
the World Cup,
or like the World Cup. They watched baseball sometimes, but nobody really. There was only maybe a select few that were really excited about it, and then the rest of us like.
Well, yeah, because watching sports just takes. If you're in a place like that and you're like traveling to go see stuff and adventure and just go see all these cool places, you don't want to be stuck inside watching a game.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you just have sunlight all the time, so like people would just sit outside all the time. I mean, if you think about a life experience of every day I can hang out with my friends if I want to because they're all right here.
Oh yeah.
Or I can go hide out in my room. Like, you have the opportunity to choose every day without having to call up your friends and hope that they actually want to hang out. And they'll say, "Oh yeah,"
and their schedule's not busy, and all the other nuances that you have to really planning. I mean, obviously, it's not that hard sometimes when you're like really close to people and you know their schedule and you hang out a lot. But like with people that you like hang out with, like you want to hang out with them, but your schedules just don't align.
And not only schedules, but sometimes, like, how many times have you run into the situation of, we should hang out? Yeah, we should hang out. And then nothing. And then, we should hang out. Yeah, we should hang out. And then nothing. Or, we should hang out. Yeah, let's plan for this day. And then flake, and there's always these excuses. But, like, even looking back at my life when I lived here, there was a lot of times where I'd be like, oh, I'm busy. I got this going on. I got that going. Really, I'm not busy. Really, it's just that I've done a few things this week, and I really just want to, like, lay around in my bed. And I don't want to hang out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's what you want to commit your time to. You're never truly. I mean, people are busy with work and life. Right. However, you're busy with things that either you have to do or you want to do.
Exactly. And between those two, if what I want to do, I want to do this a little bit more than actually hang out with you.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hurt your feelings and tell you that I'd rather play my video games or lay in my bed than hang out with you. That's kind of so.
Yeah.
You fill it with input excuse.
Yeah.
And there it wasn't like that because everybody wants to hang out or nobody wants to hang out, and whoever wants to hang out is going to be in a public area.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is walk downstairs.
Dude, it sounds like that just reminds me of like all the stories like you hear your parents tell you where they would all just go cruise a road.
Yeah.
And to see who's out and about. It sounds like that, which is like we don't do that no more.
Yeah.
It's just not this like there's not a public square anymore.
Right.
Where everyone is at and you're like, all right, I'll just show up. Like it doesn't matter if I text anybody or call anybody or talk to them beforehand, someone I know will be there and we'll just hang out and have a good time.
Yeah. I think that's exactly
what's changed, I think, within like here in the Tri-Cities and just in a lot of places that don't have like somewhere that is like the most poppin' place of the entire town or this like area where you all go hang out and you're like, oh, if I go to this certain area or if I just go drive by, I'll see somebody.
Yeah. And I mean, there was two of them. There was either the Commons, if you wanted really casual, and we had a TV down there and everything. So people would like play movies. If you wanted to go watch a movie, you just walk down there and I guarantee you there's going to be 10 people sitting on the couch there watching something interesting. Yeah. So you want to watch a movie? Go downstairs, and I'll tell you what, you're going to be sitting in a theater with 10 other cool people that are fun. Yeah, just hanging out. You could sit on the table in the back behind the TV and like sit there and play your video game, but like be around people because you just want to be around people.
Yeah.
Or if you're just sick and tired of people, you can go upstairs, climb in your bed. And we had these blackout curtains on our so you just like pull the blackout curtain across, put on your headphones, and then you wouldn't know anybody else is ever there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, but that was a cool experience. Culturally, it's just different.
Imagine the end, like it's like this undescribable real feeling, but it's like palpable energy of people who want to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're excited to be somewhere. And unlike in a normal society where you have some people in these specific roles who want to be there, who are excited to go to work because they're doing what they love.
Right.
Whether that's being like a hostess and they just like talking to people. And so you know exactly what host is. They come over, and whether it's fake or not, most of the time you'll be able to tell. But the real ones, you're like, oh, dude, she's just happy to talk to people.
Yeah.
And so I imagine it's like a group of people who all just, when you ask them like, oh, how you doing today? Like, dude, I'm actually doing really good. Like, and just start listing all these crazy things off that they want to go do or they just did the day before. And now just like, it's just
it's
work.
It's actually funny because you don't actually run into them listing off these things that they did because you did them with them.
Or I mean, like
most of the time, because what it is like let's say I do want to go do something.
Yeah,
I want to go hike Bear Mountain, right? I walk downstairs, I pop in the common room. There's about 40 people in there. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to hike Bear Mountain. 10 of them get up and they're like, let's go.
All right, well, I guess in the sense of like people, I guess if you don't talk to very often, or I guess you have your core friends and you talk to everyone a lot, obviously. But if you didn't see them for like a few days because you guys were just like paths weren't crossing work and they're out doing whatever they were doing, it wasn't like they were just like work, slept, eat, did nothing. So it was like yeah, this like I guess like this like youthful excitedness, like energy about just like life at that moment with everybody, with a lot of the people there. So I think,
yeah,
and it's infectious.
yeah, and you really, and I think that's the other thing that's was really weird and really new, is you lived with everybody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like there wasn't really anybody that you didn't see very often, except for there was this one guy that was like, I don't know what he did with his time or where he went, but I would not find him anywhere. I was like, I don't know, dude. He would get off work. He was my roommate, and I didn't know where he was for like days. I don't know.
Your freaking roommate.
Yeah. Like he was in the bunk next to me, and I was like, I would wake up and I'd look over, and his stuff is all folded, all nice and neat, and he's not anywhere to be found. I'd go into work. He's not there at work. He's nowhere. I don't know. I don't even know what department he worked in. And then I'd come home, and his stuff is moved around a little bit, but it's still all folded and nice and neat. He's nowhere to be found. I'd go to sleep. I'd wake up. His stuff is moved around again, and I'm like, "What the heck?
Like, where are you?
Living with a ghost, dude.
Living with the phantom."
But then every once in a while, I'd be out on a hike or something. I'd look over, and I'd see him walking down the street with his headphones on, just like this guy that he was a mystery. And I think that was interesting because he became the talk of the town because nobody ever knew where this guy was. Like, we don't know where he's at, dude.
Just doing his own thing.
Yeah, he was cool. Like whenever I did actually get to hang out with him, he was a cool guy. We'd have really good conversations, like really cool, discussions about, like everything from religion to politics to just personal, like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like really deep stuff that we'd talk about, which was really cool. But then he just disappeared. I'm like, I don't know where this guy's at. And then I get moved over to a different building, and I had a different roommate, and he was like into mountaineering, and he never really went hiking with me. So for a long time, I was like, oh, he's not really into. I guess he's not into. He says he's into mountaineering, but he's not into it. And then he brought home, like, I think it was like it must have been like a good $500 to $1,000 in pennies, and spilt them out on the floor, and then started sifting through them for all the like collectible pennies, So like I don't know, he was probably working on that for half the summer, and part of the reason he was never ready to hike with me. But now he's got this cool Instagram, and I started seeing his stuff, and I was like,
oh, he does.
Dang, all right. No, not just does he, but like his content is good.
Oh, that's crazy.
I was like, wow, this is sick.
No, that's awesome. So where'd you go next? Because I didn't see you. Obviously, you did your term, or not your term, but you did like your contract.
Alaska.
Yeah, your Alaska trip with working there at the coffee and doing all this crazy stuff. Like, where were you off to next? I didn't see you after that either.
Yeah, so after that, I got to the end of the year. They have this thing called job fair, which is all these other jobs that do the same thing.
Yeah,
they partner up with this, like companies like this, and they go, "Hey, our season is the off season of your season, so we'll show up and we'll recruit people. You can tell us which people are good and which people are not good, kind of thing." So they exchange information, and then it's really easy. It's more like recruiting instead of like hiring, in the sense that you're not going to go through a whole application process.
Like picking a team.
Yeah, like you just walk in and you have a whole job selection. All these guys that represent different companies in different places in the country, and you talk to them, and they tell you a little bit about their experience, tell you a little bit about their work environment, and what kind of benefits they offer, and all that different stuff. And then if you want to go with one, you just say, "Hey, yeah, I'm interested." And then they go, "Okay, here's contact information," and then they get back in contact with you and start talking hiring. Like, what do you want to work? What do you want to do? And then they put you in the position and you move.
That's crazy.
Like it's pretty basic, but it's like it's designed for people who are very nomadic
and seasonal.
They want to go to the next place.
Yeah. So where'd you head off to?
What'd you choose? I ended up going with Sun Valley.
Okay, where's that at?
Sun Valley is in Idaho.
All right, so that's not too far.
Yeah, it's not too far. I decided to go there because I was like, hey, I want to try the ski bum life for a little bit, and it sounded kind of exciting. Like you got a lot of famous people that hang out in Sun Valley.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'd served Dwayne Johnson coffee.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't realize who it was. He was wearing a hat, and he walked up to buy some coffee, and he gave me one of those was it like a black card or something like that? You know, the limitless credit card.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah. And I saw it and I was like, what the heck? Who has this? And I read the name and it said Dwayne Johnson. I was like, whoa. I look up and like he lifted his head a little bit because the bill was covering his eyes. He lifted his head a little bit and I was like, oh, hi. I was like,
that's crazy.
And then charged him and he just got a latte and then went and sat down. And
all right, the real question, was he a nice customer?
Yeah, he was a cool guy. He really
I figured he was. They probably didn't talk much, eh?
Yeah. He was busy doing whatever he was doing. He probably had other stuff on his mind.
Oh yeah.
So
that's crazy though.
But it was cool. And then I don't know, we had a lot of different stuff happen there. You were always scheduled overtime. Like base schedule was like 42 to 48 hours normally. So you were working very hard. And especially around the holidays, like it was just being hammered all the time. Like didn't really have much time to go snowboarding for a little while. And then my days off, I wanted to go hiking and stuff, but it's all buried in snow. Like there's nothing that you can actually go and do unless you want to snowboard.
Yeah.
If you're not going to snowboard, you're pretty much screwed. And, so I kind of got caught into the work-home life a little bit in Sun Valley. It was a little bit more like the Tri-Cities in some ways.
I'm surprised you didn't snowboard more, though. Just to do something fun.
Yeah, I did snowboard towards the end. I started snowboarding a lot. And I did some pretty exciting stuff with that. Went down some runs I never thought I'd go down, which was really cool. But I don't know. I think the cool thing was like Alaska was it was like everything that I saw on Instagram. It was like everything that I ever imagined I would possibly do. Sun Valley was, hey, dude, you've never experienced the party life. We're going to throw you into that and see what you think. It's the first time that I ever experienced a hangover.
Ooh, that's rough.
And a bad one.
That's never fun. That's never fun.
Yeah. I mean, they had this thing that they did every Friday. I think it was Friday. Called Dollar Night.
Yeah.
And every drink at one of the bars, no matter what it was, no matter what you wanted, every mixed drink, every shot, everything was just $1.
Really?
Yeah. So
that sounds like that's crazy. I wish I need to go there. Apparently, because $1 drink, that's worth it.
Yeah, everybody would go, and they had a DJ going. I mean, you'd start dancing, and then you realize you weren't the one dancing because you were so pinched into a group.
Yeah.
By all these other people around you dancing, so you're just being picked up and put down all the time.
Yeah.
So like you could fall asleep and you're still dancing, you're still upright. Nobody's gonna notice. But that was my first experience with that, and I found pretty quick that I was like, yeah, it's kind of fun, but really, I don't know. Like after waking up the next morning. And then trying to work through that, and then like all that stuff, and then just realizing like I don't remember a lot of that stuff. My roommate actually had recording of me that night when I came home, which was very entertaining. Just like the styles, I think I picked up a pumpkin.
Where'd you get a pumpkin?
He had a pumpkin because he was going to carve a pumpkin.
So it was like October.
Yeah, it's like October. And I picked up a pumpkin, and I just walked over and set it on his lap in his bunk. He's like, what do you want me to do? I was like, carve me something. He was like, but I don't have any. I was like, you have your hands. In this video, I'm like watching this video, and I'm over there like, my eyes are like closing, and then I'm opening my eyes, and I'm like, what the heck was going on?
Blinks.
And I remember like watching this video and thinking, I don't remember any of that. And then another one of my friends is like, yeah, dude, you were awesome. And I was like, awesome? What do you define awesome? He's like, I didn't know you danced like that. And I was like, oh, I danced. And he's like, yeah, you were on stage. I was like, wait.
I was on stage? Nah.
He was like, yeah, you were dancing and all these people cleared a big circle around you and they were watching you and everything. And then the DJ called you up on stage because they thought it was awesome and everybody started clapping and cheering you on.
That's
and all
crazy.
This stuff. I don't remember any of that. And I was like, after realizing that, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I really like that. Like, I don't know what I did.
Yeah, that's not very fun. Not remembering is the worst of it all.
Right.
Yeah, so how long did you spend down, I guess not down, but over there in Idaho?
Almost 8 months.
8 months? Okay.
Yeah, so I spent a little while down there. I was planning on staying for a summer.
Okay.
But then all this COVID stuff happened. They completely shut down, and I was just kind of like staying in that one room, and I didn't really go anywhere. I didn't really do anything. And then I finally, like, the snow started to melt, and I went on a few camping trips all alone, and kind of started enjoying it a little bit. And I was like, all right, well, I think I could do the summer. And then my friend who I worked with, also the same roommate that recorded that video, had left earlier that year, and he was living down in Colorado. And he just calls me up out of the blue, and he's like, hey, dude, you working right now? And I was like, no, I'm just kind of chilling out, waiting for things to open up again. He's like, well, I got a job for you. Like, you want to start in, like, next week? And I was like, sure. Like, what would it be, though? He's like, oh, you'd be roasting coffee.
Right back to where you were at.
Sick. Yeah, I was like, cool. I enjoy roasting coffee, and, you know, like, keep the train moving, right? I've been bouncing around enough.
Might as well.
Might as well bounce to another place. And Colorado sound kind of interesting. There were some cool places in Colorado. So I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So he drives his butt all the way up there, right? And I'm realizing, so I actually took my manager, because my manager and I, we were hanging out. We were starting to hang out more. He was a cool guy, very interested in doing some of the hiking adventures that I was in, and also wanted to hike all the 14,000-footer mountains in Idaho. And so he was hoping that I would go with him, kind of thing. And I was excited about it. Anyway, we go on this camping trip because I wanted to go on a camping trip, like a good camping trip. And B, I also wanted to kind of like get some time to talk to him and make sure that he understands that I'm like, I enjoyed being here. I appreciate everything you've done for me and all that stuff, but I'm going to go to Colorado, kind of thing. Yeah. And so, like, it was building over I was trying to look for the right time, all that stuff. Yeah. To figure out how to tell him. My friend's driving up, meanwhile, and I'm here on this camping trip, trying to enjoy the camping trip while I'm thinking about having to tell him, because on the way back, once we get there, he's going to be there to pick me up and take me to Colorado. So, like, you know, so that was just crazy. And it ended up being one of the coolest camping trips. We slept on the edge of this huge lake. And
you just set up wherever then?
Yeah, like just on the edge of this lake. And I woke up early in the morning, and the tips of the mountains were all glowing orange.
Oh, that's sick.
And the water was like perfectly glass. Like there wasn't even a slight ripple in it. And so that was my first time ever seeing like the perfect reflection between the two, and the sun rising with it and everything. And I was like, oh my God. So I took a picture. I have it on Instagram, and it's just a picture of me sitting there drinking my coffee. Like you can see my hand with the coffee cup, and then the edges of the tent, and then the shoreline, and this lake, this perfectly glassy lake, and then the mountains reflecting on both sides, and then like some birds flying over the lake.
That's crazy. I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah.
I'm not on Instagram much, so I'll have to go check that out, because that sounds like it just
surreal. It was amazing. It was amazing. So that was like the end of Idaho, and then I went off to Colorado, and Colorado. So one thing that I've noticed, and this is on the scenery side of things, from state to state. I was in like foresty area, like rainforest in Alaska, right? Yeah. And then I was in the forest in Idaho, and then I was in the forest in Colorado. Okay. And those three forests were worlds apart. So different.
That's what's always been crazy to me about nature, is the way like it doesn't. There's no uniformity. I mean, there's uniformity, of course, but like from different areas, just on nature selection and how things grow, it's just so like you can go to so many different places, even here in Washington. Oh yeah, like you can go to so many different like trails, lakes, forests, mountains, and everything, and it's all just completely different. Like it's like it's comparable, but like not really.
Yeah, and I mean like so to give an example, like Alaska was very Skyrim, right? Yeah, it was there wasn't like moss growing up the sides of trees and stuff like you have in Washington, right? Yeah. If you go to the was that the west coast of Washington?
Yeah, like the west side.
The west side of Washington, you have like the vines and stuff going. Like it looks like a jungle. Yeah. Mixed with the rainforest. This is really weird. Like, whoa, this is beautiful. This is insane. you don't have that in Alaska. You have like a lot of plants on the ground and stuff. You don't have like very many bugs. Like there's no bugs except for the Alaska state bird, the mosquito.
A mosquito. That's the Alaska state. I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't believe you.
The unofficial Alaska state bird. Those things like will wipe out cows.
Really?
Yeah. You'll see a cow. You think they can't turn any more white until a mosquito bit them, and then the cow rolled over, and you realize, oh, look at that. That thing's bigger than the cow. I didn't realize that. Oh, but that, you clean out all its blood, and I guess, so.
That's crazy.
And then you see right behind him, like, the 4 other cows that he just knocked over, too. Like.
Just one mosquito just
and then you're like, wait a second, what is. Are those antlers? No, that's a moose. There's a moose behind that cow.
That's crazy.
Oh, man.
So, Colorado, you're roasting coffee. What company were you working for? If you could say that.
I was working for R&R.
Okay.
Was the name of the coffee company.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the roastery called? The Golden Pine Roastery, or Golden Pine Coffee, or something like that. Was the wholesale side, kind of like we had in Brazilian.
Yeah, and roasters.
Yeah. That is the same thing. So I worked for both. I was the front of house lead for R&R, and then I was the roaster for Golden Pine.
Nice.
And when I say front of house lead, like it was an actual restaurant too.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Yeah,
that must have been a lot of like way different pacing from everything else.
Yeah, I mean, we also had like it was like a mix between roasters and resilient.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Like think of a fully manual machine, right? Like levers, like you pull a lever down and spring loaded.
Oh yeah,
and you push it back up, and then the spring is what gives it the exact amount of pressure.
That's weird.
And its time is basically just. It
releasing
all the way through, and all the water that's going to go. Like when you pull it all the way down, it fills with the volume of water that you need, and then when you release it, it's just going to sit there and like push that 30 pounds of pressure.
That's crazy.
Until it's gone.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, so it was a really super it was straight up analog machine, but you were working. Like you were working at roasters sometimes, like
fast.
Just very, very busy. Yeah, like you're pulling those shots all day long and just like trying to get that flavor in those drinks. And I mean, they had probably 3 times as many different flavors as we had at roasters.
Jesus.
So just a lot of different flavors and stuff. And you had like, I don't know, probably like 50 different drinks on the menu. So it was a lot more in that sense. But once you got the hang of it, it was the same roasters thing. Like you're just pumping out drinks.
Yeah, you're just
flowing, you're moving, and you're just having a good time. So that was a lot of fun. Towards the end of that, though, with COVID going on and everything, it was not looking good.
Yeah.
In the sense of even just like job security and all that stuff, and it's nothing against them as a company.
It's just COVID. Everything was being shut down.
Yeah. It was not necessarily fair to them. It was not fair to me. It was a very messy period of time.
Yeah.
So I had to start thinking about what I was going to do next, and that's when my parents called me up and they're like, "Hey, we're coming down to visit." And I kind of talked to them a little bit about what was going on, and they were like, "Hey, if you want, you can come crash at our place for a little bit and save up some money if you want to do it that way." I was like, all right. So then they planned an entire trip that took us, I don't know, like a week to get back.
Yeah, I drove down to Colorado not too long ago. Yeah, it's a fun. I mean, I did it in like a day and a half. But.
Yeah, and you can do it in a day and a half. But we camped in Colorado, then we drove over and checked out Mount Rushmore.
Oh, nice.
And we camped there too.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we camped in Colorado. We camped just outside of Mount Rushmore. And then we camped again in Yellowstone, right outside of Yellowstone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so fun fact with that one, when we went in to go, have you ever been to Yellowstone?
I have not. I really want to go though.
Oh my God. Yellowstone felt like I was about ready. Like when we were going through the gates, I literally felt like I was getting ready to enter Jurassic Park. Like
really,
it was this amazing like awe feeling of like, oh my God, I'm really about to enter this park. Like, just the way that it was presented, the way that you're driving up through this, like, little zigzag up to the gate, and then you get to the gate, and you see all these cars. There's, like, 10 lanes, and all these cars are just waiting to get into this park, right? You're like, oh, my God, what is in there?
Yeah.
These trees are getting taller, like, things are, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
it just
yeah,
feels crazy.
That's cool. That's a cool feeling to have going to just a national park.
Yeah.
It's not like that in most places, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it felt. It felt like you were going, like something big was happening. Yeah. It was this amazing feeling. So anyway, we ended up going there. We camped outside of it, and we didn't see any moose the whole time that we were there until we were sitting at our campsite. Not really a campsite. It was more like an RV, like a really nice little complex area.
Okay.
Anyway, we're sitting there. We're drinking some coffee, sitting around. Did we have a fire going that night? I can't remember if we had a fire. Yeah, we had a fire going that night. So we're having a fire going because there were some places that were restricted, like Colorado, and I think we had a fire outside of Rushmore, and then we were able to have a fire there. And I don't know if Washington was allowing us to have fire, so we were enjoying the opportunity.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're sitting there having a fire. We're talking, and I think my dad said something about, could you imagine if a bison, because we saw a lot of bison.
Yeah.
It's like, could you imagine if a bison walked through here right now? He was like, that'd be crazy, you know, and I'm just sitting there. I kind of lean back in my chair, and I look up, and I see this big shadow moving through, and I was like, what in the world is that? I, like, stood up, and I'm looking at it, and I'm, like, trying to figure out, and I'm like, I saw the hind legs, and from Alaska, I've seen plenty of moose.
Yeah.
So I knew as soon as I saw the hind legs and the way it was moving, I was like, oh my God, that's a moose. And my dad's like, what? There's a moose? You know, and then we started like trying to shuffle around. But we didn't get to see that in the park. But like sitting
just
around
outside the park.
Just like sitting around a campfire outside of it was funny that they showed, and there was 2 of them there.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. That's a surreal experience.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. You just have to be really close to a wild animal like that to really understand just like how cool they are.
Yeah. They're majestic. I mean, they're huge. They're like, if you're sitting in a truck, they're actually standing about a little bit taller than you are.
That's crazy.
If you're sitting in your truck. So like, you look out the window and you're like, oh my God, I hope he has nothing against me, because if he rams me, my truck's going to tip. You know, like, it's no good.
They're huge animals.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
very majestic.
So you took that week back trip now, and now you're back here working for Roasters again.
Yep, got back to Washington, kind of spent a little time just focusing on photography, getting things squared away again. Went to the west side, did a camping trip with my brother, took some pictures there. It was very beautiful. Like I said, very different from all the other places. And then came back here, and then, decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to work for Roasters, save up a little bit of money. And I had one of 2 things on my mind. I was either I met this girl in Idaho.
Yeah.
From South America. Her name is Stephanie.
Nice.
And developed a little bit of a relationship with her and got to know her a little bit. And then she left right before COVID happened, basically. Okay. And went and traveled around Europe, and then went home to Paraguay. Nice. Yeah, and she left me with a bunch of her stuff and everything. I was planning on going there in March of this last year.
Yeah, and then COVID, obviously.
And then COVID happened, and so I wasn't able to go. So then, saving up money here, I started thinking I had one of 2 things that I was going to do. Hopefully both of them eventually I'd be able to do, but I was like, I was either going to get a van or I was going to get, save up money so I could go down to see her. And the opportunity opened up where the borders were open, and so I was like, you know what? I'm going to save up the money, and I'm going to go in February, because now I can actually do that.
Oh yeah.
And I got really excited about it, and Stephanie and I, we basically call every day and talk all the time.
Aw, so cute.
Yeah. Very special place in my heart. That little cutie pie, as I like to call her.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun to go down there. And then also get a van later. Yeah. And go I'm assuming you're just going to go travel and have fun. Really keep living your nomadic life that you really set apart so far.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big things about getting a van is that I want to be able to, take my house and go wherever I want. You know what I mean? Like if I drive from here to let's just say New York City, right? And I'm hanging out in New York City. I'm like, I kind of like it here. I'm going to hang out here for a little bit. I don't have to worry about moving my stuff because it's already there.
Yeah, no, that
like,
makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just,
I'm all set. But then additionally, having my own of something gives me the opportunity to get a dog, which is a big deal.
I want a dog too, dude. I just can't wait.
I want a little beagle.
Yeah, so I mean that's crazy. Like just jumping ship after a bank job, which is the desk job of desk jobs, in my opinion, to coffee, which is just a flurry. Is the best way to explain it. It's crazy working in roasters, a high paced coffee industry, and then just traveling. So as I mentioned almost like an hour ago now, that you do a lot of photography. So I mean, obviously you really got into it because of Alaska, and I know you were talking about beforehand. So now where's that been taking you? I guess like business side to things you've like really had to sit down and learn, and what's influencing you there?
Mean, I especially on the learning side of things, like I remember, like I told you before, when I first realized how complicated the camera was, that's where I took a step back and was like, I need to learn how to use the camera. What better way to do that than to just take pictures?
You just got to do it.
Yeah, just take pictures. Because recording video is going to be a lot more work to create a finished product.
Yeah.
That I may not actually create. Whereas if I'm taking pictures, then I'm going to at least have a finished product that I can then review and learn from.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And improve. And I'm going to be learning how to use the camera. So that's where I got into photography. And I just started taking pictures. I made myself a promise and I said, hey, I'm going to post once a day, every single day for this entire summer.
Yeah.
And I kept to that. I mean, sometimes I got off work and I realized I have nothing to post tomorrow. And so it's like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. And I'm thinking, I'm tired. I'm done. I want to just relax. But the only way that I'm going to come up with something to post tomorrow is if I go on a hike right now.
No, that's a really good philosophy. It's just always being busy and ready to
keep doing it and keep
really,
working
it's
on it.
It's the commitment. It's to keep pushing yourself behind that sometimes you got to force yourself to do it.
Right.
But it's something you also, to be able to force yourself, it's something you want to do.
Right.
And something you want to learn and work on and grow and get better from it. So it's just it's a balance, but no, I'm glad that you did that because it turns out you get better the more you do it.
Right. Yeah. So I did that and then learned through that I really enjoyed photography. And so I took it to Sun Valley and then I took that to Colorado and then took it back here. And the whole time learning all kinds of different sides of photography. One of the coolest things that I've learned along that, though, was what kind of art it was. Because I used to think that it was just, like, photography is not interesting. All you do is take pictures of stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you point a camera, you press a button. Like, what is there to photography? I learned there's so much more to photography than that. And really what it is an art form of you playing with light. Literally. Yeah. Like, you create an image to look at based on light that passes into the lens.
Yeah.
And that's the most basic way that you could describe it, I think, in a way that kind of opens your eyes a little bit to the art of it.
Yeah.
Right. And figuring out the direction of light is actually going to tell you different information depending on where it's coming from, depending on how bright it is, how close the light is to the subject, how far the light is to the subject, and then even the subject, where it's placed. We're talking composition. There's all those different
composition
things.
is the hardest but most important element of anything that you do with in the artistic field. But I think on that note, that would be a good topic. We'll talk about art and all that next time you're on the podcast. Yeah, we've been going for over an hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that quick. Well, I just want to first off thank Vance for being here and just telling his story of adventures. And it sounds crazy, terrifying, but I'm glad you did that because you have some great things come out of it. Where can people find you at?
You can find me on Instagram, Full Lantern. It's spelled FULLANTURN.
Okay.
Or you can find me on YouTube as well under the same name.
Awesome.
It's pretty much my.
I mean, I think you're missing. I think the one thing that before we go that I really want to point out. Tell me about that bald eagle picture real quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got to tell that one.
That one.
The one that was in. Where was that? Who? What company was it? Nat Geo.
Yeah, they were part of it, and then there was another company. I'm trying to remember the name, and I'm spacing on it. I'd have to look at my Instagram because they took it and they reposted it as well.
Oh, nice.
But it was in a couple magazines. Travel Alaska also, I think. I want to say Travel Alaska magazine.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Took it. I think it was that photo. It might be another photo. I can't remember. It might have been the kayaking one that I used too. But yeah, I got those guys. Got those guys on there. They were actually out there doing some special thing with. I'm gonna forget the name now.
Yeah.
The Alaska Sea Life Center.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to see all of the operations with that going on.
Dude, that's probably a
crazy
experience too. Just seeing all the behind the scenes of that stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but that was cool. But yeah, that eagle picture, and then it got used in. It's in 3 galleries now because of everything, like everything from the exposure that I got with their help.
Yeah, with Nat Geo.
Yeah.
So that's that. I mean, that's one thing I really want to put out there is that you've grown and you made some cool photos.
Right.
And you have a website too, right?
I had a website. I closed it down temporarily.
Okay.
But it will be up again at some point. It'll be fullantern.com just like it was.
Nice.
But I closed it down temporarily to help with savings.
That makes sense.
And also just because I need to put more of my energy into photography in general, and having a website that I can't even run at the moment is kind of pointless. So I've decided to kind of reduce. But I am still active on Instagram. I'm working towards doing some new things with YouTube too here pretty soon.
No, it'll be exciting to see.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, anyway, so thanks for coming on the podcast and just talking about your adventures. I mean, I can't wait till the next podcast and we talk about whatever else we talk about. We'll start with art probably because that's an interesting subject.
I'd love to talk about art.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Nuanced Friends podcast here with Vance. If you guys have any comments or any questions, put them down below in the YouTube comment section. Subscribe for more content like this and hit that like button for me, will you? Anyways, have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Later.